Hey everyone, it's me, Lacey, and
Drew.
we're here with our good friend Jordyn, who is going to talk to us in depth a little bit about her dog program, which is incredible, and we've been blessed by it. So I think we're going to answer probably a bunch of questions you might have about herding dogs and livestock dogs in general. And just I hope buckle up; it's going to be fun, and you're going to want one. So. Let's start at the very beginning because I'm always really curious about the background of people and how in the world did you end up um, raising so many dogs? Because how many dogs do you guys currently have?
We have eight,
Eight dogs
ranging from 7 years old to 9 months.
Yeah, that's a lot of dogs for one house.
It is. Yeah.
Not if you're breeders, though. Not if you're breeders. So what do you think was the trajectory of you starting out having a dog, or even in your childhood? Did you always sort of want to do this, or is it kind of a random? What happened?
That's a really good question. So it's kind of funny. My parents recently moved, and of course, when they packed everything up, they went through like all of my old notebooks and papers and stuff. And I actually had on a kind of like a bucket list to raise Australian Shepherds. And it's kind of funny because I wrote it when I was like maybe 10 years old.
That's incredible.
Yeah. So I guess maybe it was something I always thought about. Yeah. But it really started when Josh and I were in college and we started dating. He had a dog. He had an Australian Shepherd. And of course, we were both seniors in college. So we were, ready to kind of start our own life. And we made the decision to get a puppy. We said that we would tell his parents it was mine and we would tell my parents it was his, but she was ours.
Aww.
And so it kind of started there. But so we had Wyatt and Piper, and they were our best friends that went everywhere with us. So they were part of our engagement. They were part of our wedding. They went on our honeymoon with us.
Oh my goodness.
And yeah, and so kind of the obsession went from there. We had our first litter in November 2018, and we ended up keeping two boys from that litter.
So Wyatt and Piper were the parents?
Yes. Okay. Yeah. So Wyatt and Piper were our original two, and we kept Pine and Finn. And then in 2019 is when we bought our house. And we were so excited because our property was very flat. And so when we came to sign onto the house, we actually brought Piper with us. And I stood at one end of our property and Josh stood at the other. And we had her run back and forth in between us. Because up until that point, we lived in an apartment. And so we obviously did not have the room for everybody to run. And we were ecstatic to at least now have a property that our dogs could run and play all the time. And that's what they do about 95% of the time, is they just run around and play and live their best happy life.
Okay. So then how did that transition? You're like, okay, so now what I want to do is I want to master breeding these animals, because I know your program is pretty intensive. It's not just like, let's have some puppies and see what happens. You're really intentional. And you have a very kind of systematic way of doing things. So how do you shift from sort of that mentality into the training I know you've done and that you implement with your puppies? What did that look like?
Honestly, it started after we had our second litter. So our second litter was born in 2020. And of course, with the crazy way the world was, we could not beg people to come over and play with puppies. We would say, hey, we'll even be outside. We won't be near you guys. Just come over and pet the puppies. And we knew how important that early socialization was even then. But we saw a lot of flaws in that early socializing with our puppies. So our second litter, that litter born in 2020, that was our last litter that we let leave at 8 weeks. And when those puppies were about 6 to 8 months old, a couple of the families said, hey, we're having some issues with, not being friendly to everybody, suddenly something that they were okay with before, they're not okay with now, something that the puppy had never been around before, they were terrified of it. And so we just really saw that need for us to step up our game as breeders, because even though we only get to see those puppies for those first 8 to 10 weeks, everything that's kind of after the life, a lot of that can be reverted back on us, even though there's so many situations that puppy can have after they leave us. And so I personally don't want our families to have a reason to come back and say, well, something that our puppy did when you had it, you missed. I would rather do so much more so that there's less of that opportunity or that room for thinking, oh, this must have happened before the puppy came to us.
Well, we were just talking with friends of ours, and they said their dog has some behavioral issues. And they said, I think something happened when they were a puppy at the train or at the breeders. Yeah. And I don't know that I ever would have gone that far back, but he's kind of scared.
It's like childhood trauma.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So that's
yeah.
But I would say when we got our puppy Robbie, I was reading all the dog books I could on training and stuff like that. And there's always any top celebrity trainer, the first 5 chapters, I would just skim through because as I was reading it, you guys had already done all of it. And I was and I was like, man, this is amazing. Cause I'm a very much a checklist person. So I wanted to check off all of those things and they're already all done. And I was like, wow, this is amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, thank you. It really, we saw that opportunity for the puppies. They're always the focus of our program. We love our dogs and we love the puppies, and we really wanted to help set the puppies up for success. So as much as we could pour into them so that there would be a greater return on investment for the families later on in life, that was what we decided, okay, we need that to be our focus. And instead of focusing so much on what color the puppy is, what gender the puppy is, it's all of these puppies have the same value and they all deserve to be given the same opportunity to succeed no matter wherever they go. And so that's really
I've never seen that
matching
before that you do. You personally know these puppies and their personality, and then you match them with where they're going, depending on what the lifestyle is that they're moving on to. And that I didn't even know it was a thing that people did. I thought you pick a breed based on what their, sort of tendencies are genetically, I guess, speaking, or breed speaking. And so the idea that you're and you have a system of doing that, right? You're not just a dog whisperer. You actually.
Right.
Maybe both.
Yeah. So it's called Volhart Puppy Aptitude Test. And it's been around for a while. I don't know when it was first created, but it's to test the temperament, the inherited part of the personality. And the puppy's reactions, they're done on the day that they turn, I believe it's 49 days old. So it's the day they turn 7 weeks old, because anything tested before or after that specific day is a learned behavior. And so you're testing the most raw reaction from that puppy.
Wow.
And it just really tells you basically the stability of the puppy and the sort of home that, if nothing is done differently, if the puppies continue to be raised, with no formal training or just very basics, it'll tell you, this is the tendencies that puppy will have. This is a great puppy for a first time owner. This is a good puppy for someone who has experience, and that really helps us determine which puppy is best for each home.
And I know you've worked with people who use the animals as service animals, right? And emotional support animals. And so in all these variant people with families, people where the child is really the main caretaker, people like us who want a kind of dual purpose family dog, but also really a working dog. And what are I guess when I know that you pressured us to get a dog, which we already wanted to do anyway, but you're this dog is perfect for you. This is perfect for you. I think what I'm curious about is what were you looking at in our dog that you're like, oh, this is a really good match for Drew and Lacey and their family?
Honestly, the fact that, like, I'm going to put it this way, and it sounds different in today's society, but you guys are homebodies. And I mean that as in, like, you
That's
guys are going to be super fun.
I appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely. But homebodies, so you wanted a dog that could integrate with your family well, and especially with you guys wanting Abraham to really step up and like this kind of be his dog, his buddy, to go with him and keep an eye on him when he's out exploring. But then also having a dog that if he's with you guys, being able to say, hey, I need that cow back, or let's go and turn this bull calf back around and bring it back over.
Right.
So the herding aspect was big. So we do the herding instinct test when they're 5 weeks old, and that just kind of helps us really see who's got a little bit more aptitude for following the stock and having that natural drive and instinct. Out of all of the puppies in Robbie's litter, he was the male. Rogue, the puppy that we kept, she was the female that had the most interest, and then Robbie was the male. And so
they're like twins. Every time you post a video, I'm like, oh my goodness, that dog looks so much like Robbie.
I'll be like,
yes,
what's Robbie doing?
I know. It's that cool consistency that you see, that you want in the breed. So like, not only do we try to focus on our puppy raising aspects, but like also, since we're raising Australian Shepherds, like we want the preservation of the breed. We want there to be consistency, we want the behavior to be the same. We want the looks to be the same. We want the drive and really the instinct there. Sorry, we've got a lot of helicopters flying super low here lately. We're about 30 minutes from Fort Bragg.
Oh, yeah. We can't hear him on here.
Yeah, I actually can't hear. Yeah.
Oh, that's good. That's good. Yeah, he's just like maybe half a mile that way. So pretty close. But focusing on the preserving of what made the breed such a success story here in the U.S. and really seeing that consistency even amongst, litter mates. So it's really exciting. But that was really my focus point for you guys, was a puppy that scored well, would do great in a home with kids, would do great with other animals. So that would be a mostly forest puppy on the Woolheart puppy aptitude test. But then also having done our instinct test, knowing that he had more of an aptitude to follow. In fact, having him just sit and watch the chickens with Finn, as he was growing up, even past the 5 weeks old, like that was really cool and kind of stuck out to me. Was, okay, this puppy's already trying to take notes of what we're doing, that spoke volumes to me of, okay, this is a puppy to keep an eye out for someone who's wanting a dog that's going to work. That's really what
he does so well. And he's getting better and better with larger livestock too. And I think if you haven't seen before, you should check out Jordyn's channel, because she's always sharing great videos of her dogs doing some of these things, even on the small homestead, putting the chickens up. And that was actually, I think, one of the turning points for us is we saw you shared a video of putting the chickens up, and we're like, oh my gosh, that's a life. And we've had sheep for years, and we've talked about this a little bit on the podcast, but that we, don't have the sheep currently, and we my aim is to get them again, but not until we have an animal that can do the herding, because human herding of really, really sort of wild sheep, which is our goal, is to have these sort of wild sheep, is not fun. So it doesn't bring out the best in humans to perform that act. So
I think it's been interesting to me too, like watching Robbie, like learning. I didn't like, it's been like you read the herding books and like they're helpful, but at the same time, I think like actually just being with the dog and like building that trust and relationship with the dog, like a lot of times now he will, like, I can say fence and he goes to the other side of the poly wire and make sure nobody comes across. But in some days, like this morning, I was like, Robbie, come on. And he just sat there and he was like, no, I'm going to just watch the cows today. So it's like, seeing him like thinking and still learning it's interesting to see like the progression. Because for a while he was like, I remember texting with you, like he was terrified to even come in with the cows.
Yeah.
And now he's like, he's not hesitant to come in with them, and he's like learning how to move them. And yeah, it's really an interesting transgression.
Confidence. Yeah. And I think not just confidence in his abilities, but confidence in like communication with all of us. Because it's different with each of us, right? It's not the same. He doesn't communicate with Abraham the same way he does with Drew or with me, or, you know. But one thing I noticed the other day that was so shocking is that Drew took 2 of the kids and ran to the grocery store. And when he was leaving, normally Robbie wants to, you know, whoever's going down the driveway, he goes with them. And Drew turned around, he looked at him and said, stay. And Robbie just stood there. And he stood there until they came back from the grocery store. I mean, it was incredible. I don't know if he actually did, cool. but yeah.
He was in the same spot. I'm suspicious of if he actually
probably went somewhere else for a while. But the fact that he stayed was really huge, because for the past like week or so, he really is just chasing every car down the driveway that has any of us in it. He doesn't care about other people either.
He's not chasing that car. He just wants to be with us.
Yeah. He's just going. So anyway, it's just been really impressive. And now, like today, I walked down the driveway and I turned around and he was going to come with me. And I said, no, Robbie, stay. And he did. And that was the first time I've successfully gotten him to obey that command. Yeah. So that was a big deal.
It's cool for them to use it in like real life. I had the last week, the fence was off for some reason. You know, we must have just forgot to turn it back on. And so one of the sheep had gone outside of our perimeter fence, which is just 5 strands. And I was like, oh, shoot, what am I going to do? Well, Rogue was right beside me, of course. And so I put my foot on the fence and I said, okay, Rogue, go out. And so she went through the fence and I said, go get that sheep. And I pointed because she's like looking around and she saw him. And she took him and she ran him halfway down the property and turned him back and got him back in through the fence.
Wow.
And then came back through the fence. And it's crazy, but I've been dwelling on this more, especially this past week after we went to HOA and did the herding demos. Having herding dogs that are capable of doing the job, I'm not scared or worried now if there's an animal out, because I know that I have a dog that's capable of getting the job done. You know, whether they're outside of the perimeter fence or they're just outside of like their enclosure fence, I'm like, okay, it's okay. I have a dog that can do this. Whereas I know when we first started homesteading, I would be like,
panic. Oh my gosh.
What are we going to do?
Absolutely.
Yeah. And
Lacey,
so it's so
Lacey
nice
might
to
have
get to that
chased
point.
a pig down the road before.
Down the main road.
Yeah.
That's happened. Yeah.
Yep. We've had to chase a pig back from our neighbor's house before. So I get that. But it's nice now to have the confidence and have the dogs that it's like, okay, they know what they're doing. And we have enough communication that if I ask them, you go get that sheep, I don't care what you have to do to get them back in. You know, I could not have done it in 5 seconds like she did. Would not have worked.
And we watched this muster dog show with the kids to sort of, just because it's super fun to watch these people train these herding dogs. They're in Australia and they're Kelpies, which is not, I've heard, and you can maybe tell me if this is true or not, that Australian Shepherds are not actually from Australia. I don't know if that's true, but
they're not.
They're not.
No, they're from the US.
But the Kelpies, the way that they work is so much less of a harsh impact on the animals. And they're using them on, of course, on these like property, these ranches that have millions of acres and thousands of head of cattle or whatever livestock they have. And what they're moving away from is formerly they're using like helicopters and motorcycles to help round and wrangle these animals. And the interaction between the dogs and the livestock is so much less intense, so much less of a trauma for experience for the animals, for the livestock. And I think that makes so much sense to me, because the way they do it is like, I mean, they are just doing enough to get the animal to do what they want, like not to really scare them or, there's just not trauma involved. And I mean, our experience herding sheep as a family, like
lots of trauma.
There's lots of trauma on both ends. So that's such an incredible, like, you know, farm smarter, not harder. Like it's always, I'm like, we should have just gotten, but we just didn't even realize. I think, so we also bringing up the topic of livestock guardian dogs because they have their own role, right, to play. And so we have Pyrenees and a Pyrenees Anatolian cross. And they're incredible dogs, but they're not herding dogs. And so,
No.
you know, them being here, they never would have like come to help us bring the sheep in.
No, usually they just add it to the chaos.
Yeah. They're just kind of dancing. And they want
They're like, I don't know what you want us to do.
Yeah, they don't get it. That's not how they operate. So it's just so fascinating to me to watch how those instincts come out, but also the well-behavedness of the animal that we got from you guys has been incredible, because you know, you see people get dogs all the time and they're like, oh man, it took me weeks to potty train. It took me weeks to keep them from eating shoes. It took me weeks to keep from chewing on all the furniture. And we have not had that experience at all. And I was actually really, really terrified about that. And I don't know if that has to do with you or the breed or what, but I feel like it was you.
Well, thank you. It is a lot of work to get to that point, but we have just found it's so worth it for like you guys and for all of our families that get one of our puppies. Is if we just lay the foundation, like the puppies want to be potty trained. Like that's the thing, is it's just opening that door of communication of, oh, hey, I don't want to potty in the house. I don't want to potty where I sleep. I'd much rather go outside and go to the bathroom. But it's starting that at 6 weeks old. And, you know, your guys' dog came from a litter that we had 3 weeks after I had a baby. And I said, well, I'm going to be up every 2 hours feeding a baby anyways. I might as well be letting puppies out too. And so it's that progression of like, okay, every 2 hours getting up, letting everybody out. Okay, let's go back in. Let's go back to bed. And it progresses to then by the time they're 10 weeks old, they're sleeping 7 to 8 hours through the night with no accidents in their own kennel, and understanding what that process is of, okay, I'm going to let you out. We're going to go outside. We're going to go potty. And, it starts with, they're going to have one little accident next to the door because I didn't get the door opened fast enough, to, okay, everybody's going out. We're all doing our business outside. And then it makes it such a seamless transition to where instead of you guys spending months potty training, it's maybe 2 weeks of having an accident here and an accident there to being fully potty trained by 12 weeks, and so that's exactly the goal is like to make it so easy. And everybody loves puppies, but hates getting a puppy because they always dread the process. When we got Piper, she was 8 months old and we were still working on potty training.
Oh,
it just like, and that's the thing is when we went and we picked her up from the breeder, like the house smelled like puppy pee. She peed on the couch beside us as we were there visiting the first time we met her.
Gosh.
And it's so, it's like we took our knowledge and our experience from that, and our knowledge and our experience that we gained from having our second litter of, okay, we need to do more socializing so that the puppies have a better chance to be successful. It's all of those little things that it's like, okay, we can do this. If this is what we want to do and we want to do it the right way and we want to raise better puppies, this is what it's going to take. Yes, it's more work, but there's so much benefit left from it.
For sure. It's life-changing because, our dog can be with anyone. He can be with any people. He can be with any other dogs even. He is not intimidating to other dogs, we've noticed, and he's not intimidated by them. It's like this equal, he's comfortable in almost every situation. I can't think of one where he really doesn't do well. And that, having friends and family and knowing people who have dogs that aren't in that way, I know that it had to do with, because I think that's true of all your dogs, because I've met a lot of them too, and they're all super friendly. And I've met other Australian Shepherds, and it's just comparing his demeanor to those others, and you can see like the way he interacts with other dogs. He can pick up on, are they
like social cues?
Yeah, exactly. You can watch. So he's like watching how they act and interacting in a way that doesn't make them on the offensive, even as a puppy, because he's still a puppy and he still really just wants to play. So it's been interesting to watch that. But so my question then is how, and like, maybe do you have some resources or tools that you recommend to people, whether they already have a dog or maybe before picking out a dog, or maybe they're even thinking about breeding dogs, sort of three separate whole questions, but what are some of your favorite resources, and where do you encourage people to get answers and training on this kind of thing?
Yeah. So the first thing, I'm going to do a little self-promotion because I do have a couple YouTube videos. So our YouTube channel, I do have a few videos. I have one that's called What to Expect When You're Expecting, Puppy Edition, where I just it's a longer like talking video, but I just kind of talk about like how to really set the puppy up for success when bringing home a new puppy and proper interaction with the puppy. You know, a lot of the times we think it's cute for them to chew on us, and we think it's cute for them to bark and jump up. And it's like, we so quickly forget that that puppy is going to turn into an adult dog. And that behavior is not so fun when they're an adult dog and those teeth are bigger and they bite harder and they're heavier. And so that jumping up weight and that barking is not so cute anymore. And so it just kind of goes over that a little bit. So our YouTube channel is just Working Aussie's Homestead. And another good resource, especially for breeding. So we do a combination of what's called puppy culture. And then we also use Avid Dog. Now, Avid Dog is only available, I think, through Good Dog now. There's a website, gooddog.com. And once you're signed up through there, then you have access to all of Avid Dog's courses. So Avid Dog especially includes what we use, which is the early scent introduction. And it's very similar to early neurological stimulation that we use. And that's done from day 3 until day 16 to really help focus on all of the senses that the puppies have during the neonatal phase, because their eyes and ears are still closed. And so you're focusing on their touch and sound, not sound, but their touch and scent sensitivities, and focusing on putting them for early neurological stimulation is stimulating those brains to really work a little bit sooner. And it allows them, when they're adults, to kind of put stressors on a scale rather than just have the fight or flight response. And so that'll help them later on. And then the early scent introduction is actually introducing them to a new scent for that same period of time, day 3 to day 16, to kind of help stimulate their minds to kind of work a little bit harder. So like some of those, we have a snake skin that we use. I use wool. We have their favorite one is putting their nose up to our cat. So half of them will be like, interesting. And the other half are like, this is exciting. What is this? Yeah. So but some other examples are like black tea, soil, pine wood shavings. So just kind of a variety of like earthy, and we have lemon peel that they smell too. So just kind of a variety to really get their brains more stimulated, even at that really young age, because normally they're just around mom and their siblings, and that's it. And so introducing these other scents, they're like, interesting. And then we record their response. But so for breeding and for just some more information on like more socialization protocol would be the puppy culture. And so that is focused on like really novelty environments, novelty items, novelty in different situations, bringing people in. And then something that we do, especially that I haven't yet heard of another breeder doing, is we actually partner with 2 local yoga studios. So we co-host a yoga with puppies class. So it's a variety of people, from kids have shown up at those classes to like some older adults. And it's people moving their bodies in weird positions in a safe for the puppy environment, because dogs don't frequent yoga studios, which is nice. So it's usually clean. Everybody takes their shoes off for the event and whatnot, so that there's a very good like biosecurity going on. But it's a cool event, not only for the people to play with puppies, of course, but for the puppies to kind of get more used to a variety of people, not necessarily paying just specific attention to them, which we've also found is really good for the puppies, is if they go into an environment and people don't necessarily pay attention to them right away, it also helps them be more neutral and not over aroused when people pay
Oh,
attention to
interesting.
them.
Right. Yeah. Oh, so would you say all of that is good across breeds, or is that all specific?
Yes, I would say good across breeds. Well socialized puppies are always the key, no matter what the breed is.
Yeah.
And that's where it's been fun is even though what we do is not necessarily the norm, I know a lot of breeders across the country that raise different breeds of animals, or not animals, but just different breeds of dogs that
Right.
do the exact same thing. That do bull heart puppy aptitude test their puppies and match to families too, rather than allowing people to pick. And so, even though it's not the normal in terms of most people buying a puppy,
Mhm.
finding a breeder that does that is going to be so much better off for you and your family in the long run.
Is there a list
Than
somewhere? I mean, everybody should get their dog from you guys, but you have limited capacity. So is there a place to find like people who are following those protocols?
Not necessarily. If So even if you search up like puppy culture breeder, you're going to have hit or miss. And
Yeah.
that's where it's important to do your research on the breed, but then
Mhm.
also do your research on the breeder too. So for us, like, especially if you're, sorry, I'm like trying to think about how to phrase this so that's not as controversial as it is. So in the dog world, like obviously, if you're going to support a breeder, you want to support a breeder that is focused on breed preservation and actually using the dog for what they were bred for.
Mm.
That'll kind of help you, like you like you said earlier, check those boxes. You
Right.
know, if somebody just breeds their dogs to breed their dogs, most of the time that's going to be like your backyard breeder. And these
Mhm.
days, it's a lot harder to spot that than before, because the people that were doing the necessary steps to socialize those puppies, you could kind of like find them out a little bit easier than you can now.
Mhm.
Uh, so there's not, short answer, there's not really a list, but there are
Right.
a couple groups on Facebook where you can ask about a specific breeder or you can ask about recommendations for a breeder if you have a specific breed in mind. One of those is going to be Uncensored Breeders. Forget if there's anything after that, but it's a Facebook group where you can just go in there and kind of ask for recommendations as well. And my name is not thrown in there ever. I'm still reasonably small and new compared to a lot of the breeders that are going to be in there. There's people who have been raising Australian Shepherds since the breed began. There's
Oh,
people who've been
wow.
raising them for, 30 years.
Wow.
I've been raising them for 5 years. So
Yeah.
considerably speaking, I'm a very small, newer breeder, but then I also only have 1 to 2 litters a year. So I'm not going to be somebody who has 5 or 6 litters a year either, just,
Oh, wow.
for our own personal preference and just, we are not at the point to hire anybody. And so breeders
Yeah.
who have that many puppies a year and raise them with the same protocols are going to be somebody who has help.
Right.
And we just aren't there.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So I'm so curious, like if you have any recommendations for people who are wanting to breed, because, we know a lot of homesteaders and they're looking for ways to kind of find a niche. And even with the livestock guardian dogs, I see a lot of people breeding their livestock guardian dogs. Do you have any recommendations for them in terms of like doing things kind of above bar, in a way that's responsible? And because I know there's always conflict when I see people post, oh, we're breeding our Great Pyrenees. You get so many response like no backyard breeding, and there's so many in the shelter. And I get both sides, honestly, because we
Mm-hmm.
have dogs and we're like, oh, this is a great dog, we should breed her, she's got a great demeanor. But what are your recommendations? Excuse me.
I think honestly, it's just understanding the market too.
Mhm.
I've had a couple people, especially recently, reach out if I have a stud that they can use, or if I know somebody who has a stud that they can use. And it's almost like now I have to ask the question first of, do you have potential homes lined up? Because if somebody doesn't, like,
right,
the puppy market, and I hate to put it this way because it that's kind of what it is at this point, but the puppy market is on a weird wavelength these days. The only reason I'm going to say this, and I might like go back on it later in life, but I think that a key aspect of us being successful is because we are small and because I keep a waiting list.
Right.
And we don't breed until the waiting list is full.
Oh,
and so
brilliant.
For us, like, our waiting list is 6 families, because that's, like, for me, that's a good average size litter. So like the litter that you guys got a puppy from, she ended up having 9, but I had the 6 families already like good to go, excited. And so for us, like, I think it's successful. And even though, so like this recent litter, we had 8 and I only have 1 spot left, but they'll be 5 weeks old on Friday. So I still have 5 weeks to find the perfect home for that last puppy, and actually have a call later today to kind of talk to a family. But if you don't already have families lined up or a plan in mind of what you're going to do if you can't find those puppies' homes, then I would not recommend breeding.
That's really good.
I appreciate exactly all of that. Yeah.
Because I feel like what Lacey said, that's like always the feedback is like, they're going to end up in a shelter. And I even told Lacey, like, she was kind of pushing to.
Well, my sister wanted one. She wanted a puppy. And I was like, she would be a great like pet dog and for a family. But I didn't want to breed her for just one.
I know. And I was like, and I don't want 6 more Pyrenees on our property.
Right. Yeah.
Right. Now, if I had a dog that, like, everywhere I took her, everybody was like, oh my gosh, if you ever have a puppy, like, I want one. That's one thing. But if you have a dog where you're like, it'd be nice to have a little extra income, and I think this dog would be a good fit, I don't think that that's enough of a reason to breed, especially right now. So, like, I personally know several Australian Shepherd breeders. Like, mind you, again, I have 7 of my 8 spoken for already. I have a couple Australian Shepherd breeders that I'm friends with that have 4 and 5 and 6-month-old puppies that they still cannot find homes for.
Man.
And that's where, talking with my husband, especially, because we kind of like bounce ideas off of each other, and we talk about it. And that's where our focus is not on the puppy. It's on our program and how we raise our puppies. And so, like, this is the first time we've ever had this, but one of the families that's on our litter right now, they don't even want to know which puppy we pick for them until they come to pick it up, which is kind of crazy. But, if they said, well, if we're not going to know for 7 weeks, what's another 3? But it's because they trust the process and the program and know that whichever puppy we pick for them is going to be a good fit. And so it's really, that's what I think also kind of sets us apart, is rather than talk about, oh my gosh, I have puppies out of this dog that has all of these titles. Like, yes, I title my dogs, but also, I put in so much into the puppies that kind of, that's where people are like, oh, okay, I want a puppy from you because you do all of these things with them. Not just because, wow, I love that dog, I want a puppy from that litter. Instead, it's, timing is right. And also the way that we raise our puppies is what is kind of the sweet spot for us.
Well, I didn't even want a dog, but then I talked to you and I was like, but she made me want a dog. And the idea of like being matched with this like perfect match was this like, oh, it's okay.
It's kind of like a pound pup.
Because you do feel like, yeah, kind of. But what you feel like when you buy a dog, it's sort of like luck of the draw, right? Like you just don't know for sure what their personality is going to be, and you hope you can train them. But there was just more of a guarantee when I got a dog from you that there was like, this was going to be a good fit. And like the additional support that you guys offer, like continuing to like offer for the dog. I mean, that's a huge element too, because you can't, I don't know where else you could go and get a dog that it would come with that kind of follow up. And
I know, I don't even know where Rutabaga came. If I had to find that farm again,
no.
Yeah. And half the
got him out of
time
the
that I
field.
hear too, especially in like Australian Shepherd, like training groups and stuff, is someone's like, oh, well, I have this issue going on and I tried to reach out to the breeder and they blocked me. And it's like,
Oh man.
Oh,
like of
no.
all the things, like
Yeah.
I would feel awful if somebody, blocked me if I had just bought a puppy from them. I just,
Well, even
that's
you
not
have
the
a
experience we want.
Yeah, you have a sign a document that if you ever want to get rid of this dog, then you need to tell me first. Like, it's just this really kind of beautiful, like there's no, yeah, it feels like an adoption, like a real true adoption.
I know we actually, I haven't said anything about this publicly, but we actually like had our first experience with that just this past month. One of the families, he lost his job and realized that having two dogs was not quite what he was hoping for. And we reached out to a family that had talked to us about our dogs before, but they weren't quite sure yet. And I said, hey, I think this guy would be a good fit for you. I said, really talk it over, think it over. He's safe, so he's not going anywhere. And one of our other puppy families actually fostered him for a while. And this Sunday, he's actually going to be picked up by the new family. But it's one of those where like the stars have just aligned for that. But that was our first experience of, hey, this isn't quite working how I hoped it to. And not because of the dog, but because of the lifestyle.
Right.
Yeah.
And the whole, lots of things changing all at once.
Right.
And so, but that's, I know for a fact that he's going to a good home, even with it being a new home, and that's where like my heart feels right doing that.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think that's interesting because we have Robbie and I can't imagine not really having him anymore, but I do think that if he needed to have a different home, he would be fine. Like it wouldn't, it might not be ideal for him and his little heart and mind, but he also would adjust and it would be okay because he's so well, I don't know, adjusted.
Yeah. Yeah. Honestly, we kind of had a funny conversation about that the other day of, okay, if something drastic happened and we had to like get rid of all of our dogs,
oh yeah,
who would transition best, and it was like, Ray, absolutely. If someone has a ball or sheep for her to herd, she's good. Like it doesn't matter where she goes. If someone at least has a ball for her, she's like, okay, we're besties now.
That's so funny.
So no, I understand that.
I'm curious. This is like kind of a selfish question, but so I've noticed like Robbie has like these transitional like milestones in his age, and we're coming up on like almost 11 months now. What do you think like the next challenges with like behavior or learning or like what should we be looking for next?
So usually between 12 months and 16 months, you have another fear period. And it could just be something super slight. And some puppies don't go through it at all. But it's just where they're a little extra rebellious. They decide, I'm not going to listen today.
Yeah.
And Joy is going through that right now. Joy is our keeper from Piper's last litter. And she turned a year old in August. Sorry, I want to just make sure we're not ripping up something we're not supposed to. But she just does whatever the heck she wants.
Yeah.
And she will open the kennel door, and none of our other dogs do this, but we open the kennel door and she just comes barreling out, flying, and she's like, who's going to go wild and nuts with me? Yeah. And is looking around and everybody's like, not me. And so it's an interesting transition for her. But that's what I would kind of be looking for is like, it might be very slight. He might not have it at all. And it might be like, okay, we are just not working today. And that's where I've had a few moments with Rogue this past week where we have been practicing and practicing and practicing. And then she decides, I don't remember anything that I've worked on.
Yeah.
Which is very frustrating, especially for us if we're like we're going to do this and it's going to be great. I did some herding demonstrations with her. And the demonstration I did with Finn, I literally told the crowd, I said, okay, top 2 things. Don't let your dog go to the bathroom where you're going to move livestock or when you're moving livestock. And 2, don't let the dog eat the livestock food or the livestock poop. What's the first 2 things my puppy does when I take her in to go work the sheep? Goes and pees and poops, and then goes and starts eating the sheep poop, which she has never done because I've never allowed her to do it.
Oh my goodness.
Right in front of the crowd. I'm like, ooh.
I didn't know. Okay. Why not eat livestock poop? I mean, it's like, it's disgusting. That's why I don't.
It's just that mindset shift. So if I'm in there and we're going to work the livestock, I want her to be focused on me and the livestock. I don't want her to be focused on, nice little snack right here. It's nope. I need your full attention because if something happened in like that, whatever it was, especially like if we're working cows, because cows can be a heck of a lot more dangerous than sheep. But if all of a sudden, if Robbie's over eating a cow patty and one of the cows decides that he doesn't like where you're standing and he decides to come at you, you want Robbie to be there to come and say, hey, no, cow, that's not where you're supposed to be. But if Robbie's too busy over there eating whatever, you know, that's the thing is you just want that focus retained on you and what you're doing, not, oh, let's go have a yummy snack, you know. And that's where when we move the livestock after we're done, if the dogs go and eat whatever poop that's, you know, in the last paddock that we moved them from, I'm like, okay, that's fair game now because we're not working. But when we're working, I want that full focus.
That's so interesting. I've noticed that, like, that mindset. Like, I have the command with him on me, and it, like, he's supposed to be on my right-hand side, like, right at my fingertips. And when he's at his best, he will do that. And he'll be, like, looking at me for direction. And I've noticed the amount of time that he does that is getting longer and longer. But for a while, it was, like, 30 seconds, a minute. But, like, now he'll, like, he'll, when he's doing really good, it is like we're working now, you need to pay attention. And he gets that, which is, it's a really, like, I was watching one of your videos and I commented on, you got really emotional with like that connection. And I feel that sometimes too, is like, man, he's like, we're like really like jiving right now and like making this happen. And that's like, I don't know. There's not another animal in farming that I feel like you get that with. So it's a really cool connection. And I don't think there's another way to do that with an animal. Maybe horses. I would say horse people.
Maybe I will point out that Drew was not really 100% on board with getting the dog.
I was not.
There was a good amount of coercion, but I did see this coming, for the record.
I was not on board with the dog now. And
I know.
I'm still not sure I'm on board.
Yeah, we're like, I think we can move out now.
When you're laying it on the couch and he lets a fart out, and it's like, what?
He can smell so well. He plays with the other dogs too. So I mean, he and our other dogs smell terrible. They're outside all the time. They're outside dogs, and so he's like this weird mix of like a farm dog and an inside dog, and it's a little. We're
still working through that.
Tricky, yeah. And also, Abraham and him play so much that Abraham smells like him. So we're trying to figure that out too. And it's tough.
We call Abraham and Robbie our dogs now.
Yeah,
like,
they're
all right, dog's got to sit in the back seat.
That's funny.
Well, I did want to just bring up this one story you shared recently with us about how you had a rabbit situation. And I can't even remember what the situation was. And maybe, I don't know if you want to share this or not, but you had this situation and you were able to, you didn't have the ability to like grab something and take care of the animal in the moment that you needed to. And the dog was right there and the dog did it. So I don't know if you want to share that story, but I just think it's like really,
it's okay.
Important. Yeah. Okay. It's okay.
Our listeners it's also
rabbit, right.
It kind of, I mean, it kind of like shares about like the training aspect with the dogs is like really understanding what I ask of them. So for those of you listening who don't homestead, close your ears. And for those of you who do homestead, so I had this rabbit. She was my oldest doe, but she was very small. And so I was trying to dispatch her. And I could not get like the dispatch done. And if you homestead at all, you know that you want it as instant as possible. And I just was really struggling. And we were kind of like at that time crunch where it was a lot of trauma for her, is a lot of trauma for me, because I'm like, I'm just trying to dislocate here and it's just not happening. And of course, I had the dogs out with me. And so I actually called them over and I sat her down, and she didn't go anywhere because, again, of the trauma that had already been caused. And I told the dogs to get her. And again, it seems a little like harsh and very primitive to say that to a dog, but I was able to tell them to get her. One bite, done. And then I said, okay, that'll do. And they all backed off of her, and she was gone. But it's where it was that training aspect of, okay, the dogs understood of get her and what I meant from them in that moment. Wow. To, okay, that'll do. And rather than like taking the rabbit off and ripping her apart the way that normal dogs do, right. They understood that was not their thing to do in that moment. And so, yes, it's a little primitive, and it's one of those stories where you're like, I'm only going to tell people that understand the setting and the environment where I would tell my dogs to do that. But in that moment, I needed it to be instant. Yeah. And I was not able to get the job done in that moment. And so it was very helpful to have dogs that bond that I had grown with them, they could understand.
I just think it's so clear what the potential is for the relationship between the owner and the dog in that situation. Like that just is, I got a little chills from you even the second time you told it. Because it's just, I mean, the idea that you can have like a companion that's there to support you and help you get your job done. It's just, I don't know.
Well, I just feel like Aussies, like their vocabulary, like you literally can almost speak to them. That's what Lacey keeps saying. She's like, you can tell them a sentence. Like it's not like sit and come and stay. It's like
go to the kitchen and get me this and come back. Like that, you almost can do that. It's crazy.
Yeah, I mean, like I can tell the dogs, hey, we're going to put the sheep in the barn. And I can say it just like that. And I open the gate and the dogs take and put the sheep in the barn. And I'm like, that's awesome. But it's just awesome. That's the fun part about having dogs that are so smart and pick up so much, like not only on our language, but our body language too, and our facial expressions, that's one thing we love about the Aussies.
I think they sense that too. Like it's a lot deeper than just what you're saying. It's how, how like the energy you're putting out there, they know too. And it's impressive.
The kids keep joking they're going to teach Robbie how to tie Abraham's shoes.
I bet you if he had like the Velcro ones, figure it out.
Not hard.
The joke is he's going to like put his mouth on the shoe and then take it off and it's going to be tied.
That's great. Love kids and their imaginations too.
Yeah.
That's fun.
But I can see that, like, we're talking about using it on homestead. I can see, I don't know, for some reason, particularly like with like if you had a special needs situation, like how this dog, this breed, if they're well trained, could just be so helpful. We do have a friend that has an Aussie, meant to be a service dog, but she's become more of a pet. But she can do pretty incredible things for him, and it's just really beautiful to see because I don't know. It's new for me to see that in real life. So. Well, we've gone much longer than we said we were going to. I figured we would, but that's okay. I would love for you to just share any parting words of advice you might have. And then also just how can people, if they wanted to get on your wait list, if they just want to learn from you, what are the best ways for them to get in contact and kind of follow the journey of you and your dogs along?
Absolutely. Well, I did just want to thank you guys for this opportunity. I'm always excited to share more about our dogs, of course, and love any opportunity we can do that, whether that's going to different events and offering herding demonstrations or just even attending as vendors to events. It's always interesting the conversations that are had and then the questions that come up. But you can always reach us at workingaussieshomestead.com. And we have all of our social media links there, but we're also on Facebook, Instagram, and then of course YouTube. But really reaching out through our website is good. You can send us an email through there, or just send us a message on social media even. So I'm excited to always share about this.
Do a shameless plug for the event coming up where you will probably be doing demos, I'm assuming. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, so absolutely. So we're hosting our own conference in February 2024. It's going to be February 16th and 17th. It's called the Resilient Living Conference. And you can actually purchase tickets through Eventbrite. I have that listed on our website as well. But Drew and Lacey will be speakers and teachers there. So I'm excited to have them. And then also I'll be talking about herding dogs on the homestead. And then I also have a friend that is going to do the flip side of that and talk about the livestock guardian dog aspect too. So I'm really excited about that event. But again, it'll be in February and a fun event to plan for because it'll be in the slow season and hopefully more homesteaders can come to it.
And there's a dinner and everything. I'm really looking forward to it. It's going to be great. It's a good time. Yeah, there's nothing else going on. So just come and let's hang out.
Yeah, absolutely.
Very cool. Well, Jordyn, it's been lovely as always. We were fortunate to have you in our lives, in our inner circle. And we get to talk and hang with you pretty regularly and hold your puppies and your babies. And actually, before we go, can we see some of the puppies?
Of course. They're actually at my feet.
Yay. If you're listening, you can't see, but you can hear them. And you can always go to YouTube and see them. Oh my gosh. Oh my. It's crazy how different they look when they're babies from adults. Mm-hmm. They look like little bears.
Yep. See, how many more can I grab? I know, come here.
Oh.
Let's see. And we'll get one more. Come here. That's all right.
Oh, look at it. Okay. I don't know if it's a him or her. The one on the far right is adorable. Oh my gosh. They all are, but love the spots. Awesome. Okay. Well, you heard her. Well, it might be gone today. She does have one puppy left in this litter, but just get on the list and then start learning about these incredible dogs and what they can do for your home and homestead from Jordyn and Josh, even before maybe you get your puppy. But it's been an honor and so much fun. We'll talk soon.
Absolutely. Thank you.